Okay, back to the cycle class. Here we go. So we left off on Bill's story on page 15, about halfway down. It's saying at the end of one of the paragraphs, about halfway down, it's talking about it is a design for living that works in rough going. So that's where we left off at. Like, there's this design for living that the big book lays out, that they got from the Bible, that's going to allow a person to absolutely recover from addiction. And they're going to learn how to have a relationship with God and walk with God and make themselves available to others. And this alcoholism and drug addiction thing has been figured out. It's been solved. And the solution is God and the things of God. And there's things that you're going to have to do and continue to do. On page 116 of the big book, I love this little part. It says, this age-old riddle of alcoholism and drug addiction has been solved. This age-old riddle. Alcohol, drugs, addiction has plagued the world since the beginning of time. Even all the way back to Noah, right? Noah and his sons. After the flood, Noah got drunk, and one of the sons, some people say, slept with his mom, and so on. So alcohol's been causing troubles ever since. Or you talk about Lot and his daughters. They got Lot drunk, and then they had kids with him, and then you just heard the stories over the years, right? Alcohol and drugs has plagued this world, a worldwide pandemic, and it's saying this age-old riddle has been solved. And that's what I found out. If someone took the time to explain this stuff to me and then pointed me to the Bible and the big book, and I've been off of this cycle for 10 years, so you can see why I would be excited. When I didn't think there was hope, I didn't think there was a way out, I could not stop drinking and using, no matter what the consequences I faced in my life. I would always emerge remorseful and make firm resolutions, promise after promise after promise, right? To myself, to others, to everybody around, to judges, to whoever. But for whatever reason, I could only sit in that promise for so long, and I would always go back to putting the substance in my body, which I didn't realize at the time, that I was feeling this void and my spirit was sick because of my outlook and my actions. And I found that drugs and alcohol helped treat this internal condition, until I found out that God could treat that internal condition without the drugs and alcohol. But what I kept trying to do was stay away from the drugs and alcohol without having a relationship with God and letting God treat my spirit. So I could only last for so long, and I'd becoming a part of the seams. And then the thoughts would come, oh, I know what I'll do. I'll put drugs and alcohol, or just smoke some weed, and this time it'll be different. And I lied to myself, thinking that was going to be my reality. But then once I would fall for it for the umpteenth time, I found out the hard way that once again I did have no control, and I would go on a spree until I hit the next truth of consequence. And so I stay stuck on the cycle for 19 years until someone showed me the path and the way out. So that's what I do now, and that's what I encourage all of you to do. Because it's saying here, part of this design for living that really works, a huge part of that design is you making yourself available to work with somebody else. Whether it's just discipling them, doing life with them, taking an alcoholic addict through the steps. And the steps can benefit people who aren't alcoholics addicts as well. I feel like the principles and the steps need to be in the church, because a lot of people aren't clearing up wreckage, asking for forgiveness, making apologies, all the stuff that the big book took from the Bible and put down in these practical steps. A lot of people in the church aren't doing that stuff, and they're still carrying these baggages and all this stuff. So once I was shown the path, then I have a part to play, and I continue on that path, and I just teach that to others. So one of the biggest things of this design for living that really works is working with somebody else. How many of you have relapsed and you can look back and say, you know what, maybe I worked with someone for a time, but I can see here right around that time that the overtime came with the job, or I met that girl, and no, I wasn't working with anybody. Oh, you weren't? So why are we confused on why you relapsed then if you weren't working with anybody? Oh, then where was your morning time with God? Did you start your day off with God, spending time with Him, asking Him for direction? Or did you roll out of bed finally and rush off to work, or rush off here, or rush off there? And you think about, well, were you doing that? Did you dare to leave your house without spending time with God that morning and every morning? Oh, no, I don't think I was doing that. And then Slowly but surely, were you bringing your body around like-minded people like you once did 3-4 times a week? I was kind of making it to church and then that one Bible study once in a while. Okay, so you didn't have no morning time with God. You weren't bringing your body around like-minded people, and you definitely weren't working with nobody. And you're confused on why you relapsed? See, but I didn't know any of this. I just kept relapsing until someone showed me the path. I got to treat my mind, my body, and my spirit in these simple, certain ways, and just lay a foundation for someone to follow. Now, add what you want to it. Add whatever you want to it. There's, these different things of specialized prayer or whatever it is. If you can have this as your foundation piece, you can't relapse. And guys like us have to stop relapsing, because when we relapse, all hell breaks loose. And that's no pun intended, but anyway. So, a design for living that really works. Okay, let's go to 14 a bit at about the 3 lines down from the end, or 4 lines down, and just hit some of this home so we can take it in and let it affect us and apply it to our lives and teach others these things. It says, particularly, you see that 4 or 5 lines down from the bottom of page 14? Particularly was it imperative to work with others as he had worked with me. Listen to the wording. This is particularly imperative. Do you know what imperative means? Like, it's super important. Okay, this piece right here is super important for you to stay sober. And that's what my goal in life is, to show people how to stay sober. And then that's just the beginning. Then you're going to have to work with the fear and the guilt and the shame and these things we start to work on as well, right? As we follow through with the steps and get in the Bible and get discipled and get around prayer nights and church and all these things, all these great, beautiful things, right? But the basics of getting out of kindergarten class is staying sober. We got to stay sober so we can let God work on us, right? So, imperative, particularly these words that just stand out, right? It's because somebody had worked with him. That's a great point. Somebody worked with me. Man, I didn't deserve any of this. God put people in my life that were willing to take time out of their life to work with me and show me the path. And to think that now I would get what God has given me and I would keep it for myself and say I'm too busy with my life and work and relationships and all these things. You can't do that. You can't fall into that, because guess what? You'll be high and drunk again. Let's just bring that back to the table. And that's what we're trying to avoid, right? It's super important. Okay, so next line. Because faith without works was dead. Right out of James, right? James 2:17, if that's what it is. I'm pretty sure it is. Don't quote me. You can go look it up yourself. But that's scripture. Faith without works is dead. Meaning, you can say you believe in God all you want. You can say you want to be sober. You can say you're going to do this and that, especially when you're in treatment, right? Make all these promises. But faith without works is dead. If there's no action behind your faith, that faith is dead. That faith is worthless. There has to be action behind your faith, right? And it says, he said, and how appallingly true for the alcoholic. For if an alcoholic failed to perfect and enlarge his spiritual life through what? Through work and self-sacrifice for others, he could not survive the certain trials and low spots ahead. So if we fail to enlarge our spiritual life on a daily basis by staying in those 3 parts, right? Treating our mind, our body, and our spirit with God and the things of God, we won't be able to survive what? The low spots of life. When trials and things come at you in life, you won't be able to not drink and use over those. If you're not actively working with somebody else. Of course, it's that relationship with God, the morning, the most important time, and throughout the day, of course, living out the steps, asking God for help that day, bringing your body around like-minded people, and then the best way to treat your spirit is working with others, discipling somebody, doing life with somebody, taking someone through the steps, right? If you're not doing those things, particularly that last one, working with others, you won't be able to make it through life's trials and circumstances. And so I'm not willing to test that. You can test that all you want. You don't have to believe it. You could think your mind take you this way or that way. All I know is I finally was in a place in my life where I took suggestions, and I was so beat up from being on this cycle. Oh man, it got bad. Real bad. And I don't ever want to go back. So I have not let up even that much on staying in these 3 parts. If I got to do 3 things to treat my mind, body, and spirit, I'm going to do it. And the main thing, like it's telling you, the one that's going to get you through life is working with somebody. How many people are going to work with somebody, disciple them? The beautiful tool and option for us alcoholics, addicts, to take someone through the steps. And we're going to just throw that to the side and not take advantage of that. This is the beautiful thing that will work, when life gets hard. It says, you will not survive the certain trials and low spots ahead. If he did not work with others, he would surely drink. Man, this wording is just beautiful and practical, It's not. There's no contradiction to the Bible, and that's what I love about it. But there's actions for us to take. You just sit in the pew at church and go up for prayer every week, and then go back to whatever you're doing Monday through everything. Go to church, go to prayer. It's like, dude, there's actions. Where's your morning time with God? Where's your spending time with others, discipling? Or taking people through the steps. Where's that? Who's speaking into your life? Who's your mentor? All these things. Okay, so back over here, another little portion in 14. Almost to the bottom, like a little more than halfway down 14, where it says, while I lay in the hospital. You see it? Okay. While I lay in the hospital, the thought came that there were thousands of hopeless alcoholic addicts who might be glad to have what had been so freely given me. Perhaps I could help some of them. They, in turn, might work with others. As I lay in the hospital bed, as I lay in that last detox, as I lay homeless under the bridge before I got another opportunity, as I lay in treatment at night, and it dawns on me that, man, what an opportunity I have. And this path is going to be explained and laid out. And the old seeds that were planted, God will bring to remembrance all the stuff you've been through, all the programs you've been to, all the good seeds of the word and the different things people taught you. Now's your chance to really apply it. Because before, you obviously got out one of the 3 parts, or you wouldn't be here. And maybe you did the 3 parts for a while, and you had experiences with walking with God and being sober and all those things. But you let up somewhere, because if you didn't let up somewhere, you would not be here. And we're trying to avoid that now. So as you lay in bed at night in treatment, in the hospital, wherever you're at, the thought came that, man, what an opportunity I have to show someone else the path. Because if I don't actively show someone else the path, I'm going to lose what I have. Right? So these things we just got to keep hitting home to each other. Right? And teach this to other people. Okay, back where we left off on page 15. I like to study the big book. Like study it, not just read it and that was cool. I want to pick it apart, line by line, and study it. Back to 15. Okay, halfway down. And this is a promise to you guys. This is what I want for you guys, okay? And you guys are helping me attain this. And that's what I'm excited about. Guys, and other guys in my life too that I'm getting to know. Like, this is formulating right before my eyes. And I feel like it's been going on for a while. Don't get me wrong. There's been a relationship. But I feel like there's going to be like a breakthrough. And I really feel it's when we all decide to work with somebody else and continue to work with somebody else. Watch what'll form. Okay. Page 15, halfway down. Out of Bill's story. We commenced to make many fast friends, and a fellowship has grown up among us, of which it is a wonderful thing to feel a part of. Man, we always wanted that, feeling a part of something. And people find little groups that they get involved in as a teenager, whether it's the skater group or the freaking the gangster group or whatever the group may be, the skate, we just want to gangs and stuff. We just want to feel a part of, right? And God is giving us this opportunity to really feel a part of something, but we all have to be actively in it. You can't just take it and run. You got to be willing to give back and work with somebody else, and then in that process, we grow even closer together. So it says, the joy of living we really have, right? To be able to enjoy living again when you're living God's way in the right way. Even under pressure and difficulty, I have seen hundreds of families set their feet in the path that really goes somewhere, have seen the most impossible domestic situations rightened, family restoration, your relationships with your parents, that we could be that son that we couldn't be before, like I get a chance to do now. Other family members, close friends, where the relationships were strained, Hello, Moto. Yes. So, even under pressure and difficulty, right? It really goes somewhere. We have seen the most impossible domestic situations rightened, right? Feuds and bitterness of all sorts wiped out, right? All this restoration and healing. I have seen men come out of asylums and resume a vital place in the lives of their families and communities. I mean, people that had lost their minds, dude. I mean, I come in contact with people, they are absolutely crazy and not who they were created to be at all. And I've seen those same people come and get restored through the power of God and through taking steps and actions and following the Bible and letting the big book show you a path that came from the Bible. Doing 3 simple things and giving it time. It may take a year or 2 or 3 years or 5 years, but stuff happens, right? It starts to get restored. Things get smoothed out. Or we don't surrender to the process and we do good for a while, and then we keep getting the same result all over and over and over again. There we are, back on the cycle until what? Until some more truth and consequences happens. But we did good for a couple months, right? We got the job back, the place to live back, the car back. We pumped everybody up with all the promises, and they started believing it like, well, I'm pretty sure he's done by now. I mean, geez, look at this mess of a life he's lived. And everybody's like, yeah, he's probably done. But if you don't continue in this spiritual path, you won't be done. You'll be back on the cycle, right? And this is the thing we have to just keep hitting home to each other. So, just people coming out of just crazy mindsets and getting restored and becoming playing a vital role in their families and communities. Like, what's up with this? Man, it doesn't get no better than this. What else are we talking about? What are our goals? What are we trying to do? Go back to live the way the world told us to live? Or are we trying to experience some of this stuff, this priceless stuff that you can't even put a price tag on, right? Keep your focus where it's supposed to be. Business and professional men have regained their standing. There is scarcely any form of trouble and misery which has not been overcome among us. It's like God's power is overcoming all these obstacles in lives, these deep hurts, these strained relationships, stuff that you could not do on your own, stuff that wasn't going to get straightened out, right? We couldn't even get off this cycle. We couldn't even stop drinking and using and bringing it, just tearing our life down. Okay, right here, in one Western city and its environs, there are 1,000 of us in our families. We meet frequently, right? So the newcomers may find the fellowship that they seek. At these informal gatherings, one may often see from 50 to 200 persons. We are growing in numbers and power. But are we going to throw this away? We get an opportunity to be a part of something so special, a fellowship of brotherhood, and just, walking with God together and letting God use our lives to go after others who were struggling just like we were, and seeing them. There's frustration and heartache from the ones that don't want it, that kind of waste the time and aren't ready or whatever. Don't get me wrong, but man, it sure makes up for it when you see people coming to the Lord and really getting changed, right? I mean, what could compare to that? That my life has that type of purpose now. And that I would watch movies and always dream of like having that type of purpose. and it's become my reality. My life has that type of purpose, and so can yours. And I don't know why we wouldn't grab this and really take a hold of it, right? Let's go to page 164. There's so many good portions in here. Just want to read a little bit more. Let the book talk for itself, right? Let's let the book talk. We can expound on the book, of course, but man. Starting at the bottom of 163. Okay? Along these same lines. Page 163 at the bottom, it says, so our fellow worker, right there. Okay, so our fellow worker will soon have friends galore. You know how we used to have friends and we were probably cool at times, in little circles, and then all of a sudden the circle got smaller and smaller, and then the circle got to only people that would shoot up, and then whatever your circle looked like, and then it was just the homeless crowd I was in. You know, my people I knew were other homeless people. You know, however it worked, and then all of a sudden I lost all my friends. People had to cut me off. I burned bridges. Like, they didn't want me around. They couldn't have me around. You know, they wanted me around, and 10 years of like just giving me chance after chance after chance, and then it gets like, you're not welcome, bro. You're like, we can't keep doing this with you. And all of a sudden, dude, I was a loner. I was a lone wolf. And I had a few acquaintances out there running the streets, but those aren't friends. And then all of a sudden now I can change my life and stay to this course and watch what God works and does in my life. And all of a sudden I got a bunch of friends, dude. I'm meeting new ones as time goes on, and this fellowship is coming together. And I want you guys to be a part of that fellowship. You can't bait someone into it, though. If this isn't what they want, then you know what can you do? You can offer and encourage and open the door. Say, come, be a part of this fellowship, man. I'm getting to know a lot of solid, awesome Christian men, dude, that are serious about God. So it says, you will soon start to have friends galore, right? Some of them may sink and perhaps never get up. That's what I was talking about, how it can be rough. But if our experience is a criterion, more than half? What? More than half of those approached will become fellows of Alcoholics Anonymous? More than half? I thought the success rate was 8%. What's going on? Why is it so low? Why isn't it 50%? People would fall backwards and just like need smelling salts if you told them 50% of the people you work with came and got connected with God and had a spiritual awakening and now is following God's path and working with others and trying to get them on God's path. 50%? It said more than half. That's 50%. If you follow the book, which came from the Bible, of course, dude, people are going to take off. But are you following the book? Let's just keep it simple. Are you doing the things that the book told you to do? Or aren't you? That's just the bottom line. Are you doing it or aren't you? Okay, so it says more than half. That's crazy. When a few men in this city have found themselves and have discovered the joy of helping others to face life again, there will be no stopping until everyone in that town has had the opportunity to recover. If he can and will, right? If he can and will. The person has to be willing. A lot of time we waste our time and energy on people. It's like it may not be an ultimate waste because you know people aren't ready, and down the road they may get ready, right? We know that. But in that present moment, you can't want it more than they want it. And then you're wasting all this energy on somebody, and it's just heartbreaking and wrenching. Maybe you need to back up for a minute and leave the door open and keep that like, bro, come back when you're ready. You can't force anybody into this. They're gonna rebel, right? So we keep the door open in hopes of getting them later. What's the verse? I just had it written down. Matthew 7:6. You're throwing pearls to pigs. They don't understand how precious this opportunity is what God is offering them, who God is, and what God who created them to know him. It's just what he created you for. And you keep rebelling against what you were created for, trying to play God yourself. And the whole time, this alcoholism and drug addiction that you can't seem to shake, it's because of estrangement from God. Because you're estranged from your Creator. And when you get close with your Creator and you let God treat your spirit like only he can, renew your mind with God's word, and then make yourself available to disciple and work with others, you recover from drug addiction and alcoholism. And here's a little secret side note. Every other sin. Every other sin. It's not rocket science. We've solved alcoholism and drug addiction because God's the solution. Whoa! What a thought. What a novel thought. So that's why people can't recover, because they're trying to stay away from drugs and alcohol and get busy with work and life and things, and they're not understanding you'll never recover without this intimate daily relationship with God, and then faith without works is dead, doing the things of God. You recover. And you can't ever go back if you keep at it. And a lot of people don't know this stuff, right? Okay, we got a couple more minutes. Let me see. So if they can and will, they have to want. Okay, let's go to the next paragraph down. Our book is meant to be suggestive only, right? Suggestive only. You have to want it, right? We realize we know only a little. God will constantly disclose more to you and to us. Ask him in your morning meditation what you can do each day for the man who is still sick. Now we're bringing it back to what we initially started off on. This design for living, one of the most important things with this design for living is what? To do this line. Let me read it again. Okay, here's my question to you. Are you doing this? Because if you're not doing this and following these simple things, then don't expect to stay sober. Don't expect to have a close, intimate relationship with God. You should expect some more truth and consequences. Expect that. And it may take some time, a couple months, maybe a year, who knows. Let me read it again. Okay, here's what we're to do. Ask him, uppercase H, God. This is out of the big book. Ask God in your morning meditation what you can do each day. Okay, did it say ask God on Tuesdays and Thursdays? Or did it say ask God only on Sunday? Or ask God on Easter and Christmas? Or did it say ask God each day? Each day, what you can do for the man who is still sick. Is that our approach? Or is it we're so selfish and self-centered, we're so busy asking God to bless us and get us back established in our life and make it all about building our kingdom again. And I watch person after person do that, and that person after person, they're all high and drunk right now, or dead. A couple of them are in jail. So, are you doing that, right? The answers will come if your own house is in order. But obviously, you can't transmit something you haven't got. We have to keep seeking God ourselves every morning and asking for his help, surrendering our life to him, bear our cross in the morning, stop listening to the thoughts that bombard us in the morning, selfish-based thoughts, worry, all these things. Capture those rebellious thoughts. Make them obedient to the word of God. Put to death through the Spirit these thoughts and these actions that are coming from the selfish, sinful nature. This is a daily approach, right? Because we can't transmit something we haven't got. What's the point of us working with others when we don't have a daily relationship with God? We're not living out the steps in the Bible. We're not letting God be God first in our life. We have to do that so we can transmit what we've got, okay? See to it that your relationship with him is right. And great events will come to pass for you and countless others. This is the great fact for us. We're going to stop right there this week just because time. There's a portion we can get to next week that are going to be just covered in Scripture. So we'll finish up Bill's story next week. We'll pound a bunch of scriptures in that portion, and then we'll trust God with what he wants to do. Did you hear the words coming out of this book? It's all about God. and making God first in your life and having an intimate relationship. I don't know how this is missed. This is missed. People are struggling. People are miserable. People are losing everything good in their life, families, jobs. They can't stop drinking and using. And yet the solution is so simple and the path is laid out right in front of you. I don't think people are understanding. Nothing is going to fix this except God. And when we don't let God come in and fix it, what do? We keep going back to drugs and alcohol. So there's only one way to get off this cycle, and it's through God and the things of God. So we'll pick up next week.